but I thought it was worth much more than that. So I got my mates in there after school and turned it into a recording studio. Also, a real recording studio, right, to record music and what we were playing, because I also had charge of a program that came out on Tuesday mornings while we were having a tutorial period, where it was the idea that boys of all ages should mix in a tutorial for 45 minutes, every Tuesday morning. And whilst that was happening, they would broadcast on the school's tannoy system a radio program. And the radio station was called Radio RVP, because the building that we were in was previously the Royal Victoria Patriotic Hospital. And I remember when I found out, I thought, my parents never told me. I mean, you don't tell me. I went to a day institution, and we, would play tunes by The Who or the Rolling Stones or the Beatles or whoever was current at the time, or Prince Buster or Dandy Livingstone, and say it was them. We go, and here's now the Rolling Stones with Satisfaction. It'd be my little band going, and then the kids at school really liked that, and nobody bunked it on a Tuesday morning, and it went on from there. And I made these dub plates, and an old friend, a lad by the name of Owen Kerr, and we often called him Wang. You'll know why. With a surname like that, he couldn't escape. It was 1,000 boys in that school, so very brutal. He came, in fact, my first day at school, I went, he was in the crowd of boys that I went, and we went over a wall that we weren't supposed to. The school was opposite Wandsworth Prison. And we went over this wall, so we had to go over the wall. And we went over the wall, and immediately someone came running up. And I thought, it must be the head boy or something. And he took all their names, thank you. He took all their names and mine. And when he came to me, he went, name, I told him, he said, what form are you in? And I said, I don't know. Because it was my first day at the school. He said, who's your housemaster? Don't know. And he said, you're impertinent, and slapped me. So I hit him back. And it turned out to be a PE teacher. So when I was up in front of the headmaster, first day in the headmaster's office for what? Assaulting a teacher. No, he assaulted me. Right, what I did was just, return the compliment. Right? And so Owen was there that day, and he was older than me, and when he left, he saw me and said, I hear you're making dub plates in the school studio. I said, yeah. He said, can I hear them? And he came around my house, and everyone I played, he was like, yeah, I'll have that. Yeah, I'll have that. I was going, hang on a minute. What are you doing? He said, we're making a sound system. Right, we're making a sound system where we need some dub plates, we need some exclusive stuff, right? And this is it, right? So I thought, have you got a DJ? He's like, no, we're working on that. I'm going, well, that'll be me. My contribution to the sound will be, I'll give you all these dub plates if you let me be the DJ. And I was in from there, and then that was the birth of Sufferer.
And I know you were kind of, so Sufferer was based around Battersea, that kind of area?
Clapham Junction, baby.
Clapham Junction. And you started off sort of building a bit of a reputation for yourself, and then you started to do dances where you were like clashing with other sound systems of the day. Could you tell us a bit about
helping ourselves to the council's wood, because the council would repair the pavements, right, and put slabs of wood down, and we would go, oh, well, Mum and Dad's paid tax, this must be my bit of wood. And have it, and make speaker cabinets with them, right, Oh, yeah. And Yeah, sorry.
So yeah, can you tell us a bit about, you know, some of your encounters with other sound systems at like dances back in the day?
Man, there were many. In fact, we decided that we would accept a job in Ladbroke Grove to be the resident sound at a club called the Metro. Now that was quite dangerous because sound systems had territories. And if you were from Battersea, you wouldn't be taking your sound system to Ladbroke Grove, right? Because you were too far away from home, and not many of your followers would actually make it to Ladbroke Grove. And if there was any bother, you might have to leave the sound system in Ladbroke Grove. So they thought it was incredibly brave of us to take up the spot where Duke Vin, who's credited with being the archetypal sound man in the UK, he had been the resident sound there, and there'd been a fracas. I think they called it an affray. And a couple of the people in the sound ended up guests of Her Majesty. And so for us to go and open that old hornet's nest with the sound system from Battersea, I mean, this club, right, the people in the area went there one day and told the guy running it, you can go, but leave the keys. We're taking the club, right? And because the club had not been satisfying the community's needs, and there were people in the community that thought, no, we've got to have at least a sound system on a Friday night. And we're going to bring in a sound system from Battersea, and it's like, yeah, some bad boys from Battersea, yeah. And we went there, albeit shivering, because we thought, well, if there's any trouble, we're going to have to get out of here and leave the sound, And Ladbroke Grove was quite famous for not taking to strangers. And so we went there and made, a reasonable success of it, because the club opened at 7:30, and if you weren't there by 8 o'clock, you couldn't get in. It was oversubscribed. And I had to make these dub plates, make it go, yeah, we got some heavy dub plates that nobody in Jamaica can't get. You know why? Because I made them in Wandsworth. Not prison, outside of Wandsworth prison, but the school opposite. And so he, wanted to avail himself of these dub plates, and I wanted to play them. So every Friday night, we would have a different sound system come to show off how much better our music was, or how powerful our sound system was. And quite often we had Fat Man there, and Count Shelley, Admiral Ken, Shaka. When Shaka was just coming up, he was just beginning, I was senior in the sound business to him, right? And so in order for him to get known, he would have to come and face me in the Metro. And it was, when was it? Christmas, New Year's Eve or something. Alton Ellis was on stage, and Sufferer and Shaka were playing for the first time, And Shaka had a lot of dub plates, right? Because he'd had the whole of Jamaica, the burning spread out. We were going, now, we play English music in here, right? We're not Jamaican, right? Our dub plates come with the approval of the BBC. And so that night, Shaka never took his Crombie off, ever. The place could be steaming, he never took his Crombie off. And that night when he was facing me, he took his Crombie off. Oh. And my mates come and said, he's taking his coat off. He's taking his coat off. And I was like, oh, don't worry, I can handle him. And I was playing just ordinary music that night. I didn't show off any of my dub plates because he had tons of them, right? He was the up and coming new warrior, Shaka, right? Just Shaka. And so I had this one dub plate that I'd got from Burning Spear. And he made the mistake of playing that. And I was like, that is not a dub plate. Lie. then I'd take out an old 45 out of my record box and go, I will never play that record again because Shaka is telling you like it's a dub plate and it ain't. And I put my version of it, and then I played about 4 or 5 different cuts of the same tune. Then I took the old 45 and broke it in front of the audience and go, I'll never play that again. Right? Right? Because he's playing it and calling it a dub plate. Get out of here, Shaka. And then the fight was on. I had borrowed the introduction of a song that was produced by the famous Count Shelley. And Count Shelley had a record label, and he built the biggest reggae record store in North London on the corner of Seven Sisters Road and West Green Road. It's now a Costa Coffee, but it was a huge record store, and it did the reggae record store proud that someone could have a shop that was bigger than any Woolworths, you know. And he started and gone into recording as well, and friends, you know, would be doing recording sessions for him. And he had a singer called Jean Rondo. And Jean Rondo had a famous song called Sweet Africa. And the chorus went, oh, sweet Africa, land of my forefather. Oh, sweet Africa. You might be able to find it. It's great fun. Yeah. And I took that record into the studio and realized that it was only 2 chords. So acting on the influence of Sir George, the 5th Beatle, I made an incision on the tape and looped it together. So it just played the chords of that song round and round. I had a broomstick to keep the tension on the record player, right? And then I nicked a drum roll from somewhere, and put it on there and edited it together for the purpose of singing my own tune on that rhythm. So where Jean Rondo was going, oh, sweet Africa, I'm going, oh, sweet sufferer, right? And it became an anthem, and at 10 o'clock every Friday night, I would put that on and take the thing up, the needle off, and the audience were like singing, you know, it was like, great, you know. And so I was famous for that. And when Count Shelley heard, he went, where you get that from? You know, because he was ready to kill the engineer of the studio, or whoever it was that pirated it. And I said, no, come. Listen, this is a new piece of technology. It's called making a loop. Well, it was then, and it still is now. It survived. I mean, there would have been no hip hop without loops, right? And I, you know, George Martin had said that he'd made loops whilst making Magical Mystery Tour, the Beatles, and I thought, oh, that's an idea. So I borrowed the B-side of Young, Gifted and Black, Bob and Marcia, and chopped a bit out of that, and then got one of the music teachers who played trombone and flute to do Guantanamera. Guantanamera, Guantanamera, you know, on trombone. And that little bit about do 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 do, the flute do 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 do. And that dub plate, I took it to a dance where there was a sound system called Jim Daddy playing. And he said, we'll give you £3 for that. He said he'd give me £3. And I took it. and we drank Long Life beer in the dance and got a cab home and still had money left. That was when £3 was £3. Right? And so armed with such arsenal, you know, I thought I could face any one of them sound systems because I could probably buy one of the dub cuts that they had gone to Jamaica and buy, you know, Lloydie Cox and all that, Lord David, they're all flying out, and I was going in my studio with my trombone going, you know, and making my own dub plate. So when I put it on, I was sure that no one else could play that because I'd made it. In fact, one night with Lord David Berris from the Sound Mombasa, he went, oh, you make that yourself. And I went, "You're jealous."
Well, that's amazing. Amazing insight into some early sampling techniques there as well. And how? So obviously you got your, you probably got a taste for like putting these sounds together, making these early dub plates. And how? What was the kind of journey from making these dub plates for the sound system to kind of making your own productions to release as records?
Well, by the time I was being called a pirate for helping myself to snips of other people's tunes, I decided, well, I'm going to have to start making these tunes myself. I formed a group by the name of Matumbi. And we decided that we were going to be a strictly reggae band, whereas all the bands around at the time were a bit of reggae, a bit of soul, a bit of R&B, a bit of pop. But we're going, no, we're going to play strictly reggae. And some people looked at us and went, "You're never going to work." Because, nobody wanted an only reggae band in 1969. Even Hot Chocolate, who their name was Colored Raisins before they became Hot Chocolate. They were called Colored Raisins, yeah. And someone said, "Not a good name." So they quickly changed and started calling themselves Hot Chocolate. And their first record was a reggae version of Give Peace a Chance. And the Beatles put that out on their Apple label. So it was time for us to cultivate a British reggae sound and not necessarily copy what was going on in Jamaica, but add to it. And Pat Kelly, to his credit, rest in peace, he heard us doing that and said, "I want you lot to be my backing band." What we didn't know is that meant that he didn't have to pay for a band to come from Jamaica and put them in hotels and all that, But we rose to the challenge, and then after Pat Kelly came Ken Booth and Johnny Clark and Derek Morgan and I. Roy, and people were coming over from Jamaica and leaving the band behind because we knew the songs, Dennis Brown and all that. In fact, an old Jamaican bass player said to me, "I hate you lot." I was like, "Why?" He goes, "Because of honor, we never get to come to England, On a rub with karate." I was going, "Well, mate, don't blame us, blame the singers."
And I heard you on the radio this morning with Mary-Ann Hobbs on BBC Six Music, and you were telling a story about making one of your early productions, making it in the basement of your dad's house. Is that right?
One of the tracks that we've actually got on this record. I wanted to experiment with making a reggae sound. I mean, later on we started calling it Lovers Rock, but Marie was my guinea pig, if she'd allow me to call her that, because she was family and I didn't have to pay her a session fee. And she wanted to be a singer, and I wanted a female singer, and she was family, so she was allowed in my house, And so we, in the basement, because my dad was a stickler for keeping me indoors. He was like, "You're not going to go out on the streets and get the police pick on you and hang out with the wrong crowd and all that. You stay here." And he said, "All your mates, bring them to the house." And in those days, it was unheard of that, 15 kids bundled into one house. The parents probably wouldn't have it, but my dad wanted that because he wanted to see who it was I was hanging out with, And if there was anyone particularly ill-mannered, he'd go, "You don't have to bring him back." He's not banned, but you do better not to have him in the house. He might nick the silver or something. And so my friend Nick Straker, his dad worked for the BBC and had a fantastic Philips tape recorder that was half track. Meaning you could it was 4-track, 2 tracks on one side and 2 on the other, and you could, without taking the tape off, reverse the tape and record the tape going from right to left, or record from left to right. So we had a drum kit, had keyboards, we had guitars, we had everything in the cellar. And that was my chance to prove that I could play drums. So I played the drum track and then added stuff on top, and then needed a singer. And so Marie was on hand, and I said, we can't, her name's Marilyn. So that's why she's called Marie. And we thought, I'll call you Angelique. And she liked that because it was anonymous, you know. And that was how she started out. That was her first record. And the tune was called Cry.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
And then, well, speaking of names, we'll play you some of the compilation in a minute. But I did want to ask you about this because there's lots of different artist names on this album. But as I found when I was chatting to you about the compilation, a lot of them are you. So there's Dennis Matumbi, or Young Lions, or African Stone, or Dennis Curtis, or Dennis Matumbi. Why all the different names?
Well, Dennis Brown, right, said to me, you know the way to have a hit record? I was like, what is that? Flood the market. It's his exact words, flood the market. I thought, oh, that's why you put out 6 or 7 tunes every week, right? Well, I'm going to do the same, but it's going to be 6 or 7 different artists. And so nobody would know it was me, but well, I was kidding myself. Because by now, the pig's out of the bag.
And I know you've talked about this, there was a bit of prejudice amongst like reggae fans. They wanted like the authentic Jamaican reggae, and stuff that was made over here was a bit frowned upon. So so you came up with some specific projects and ways of presenting the record to get around that?
The thing was that people like Lloydie Coxon, Coxon Sound, would openly go, we don't play English record. We only play strictly dub and pre-release from Jamaica, right? So that prejudiced any records made in England, because they'd have that good old Made in England sticker around it. And the hole in the middle of the record would be a puny little hole, right? Instead of a big fat import hole, right? So I hit on the idea of getting a machine called a dinking machine. I pressed my records in Ireland, so they were import. And put that big fat hole in the middle, so it could go in with the, so you needed a record center to play the record, right? And so people just thought, well, it's either come from America or Jamaica or somewhere, but it's not England because the hole's bigger, And I played on that for a while until a journalist by the name of Snoopy, he's a right Snoop, he grassed me up. In the newspaper, you might think that these records have come from overseas. They're actually coming from London, and Dennis Bovell and Matumbi are the ones who are doing it. I thought, oh God, right, you've grassed us up, man. And then the members of the band thought, you couldn't keep your mouth shut, could you? You had to go and tell someone. And I didn't tell anyone. But the same person who it was that was accusing me of being overly excited and talking about it too much, it was his voice that gave the game away. Because he sang on one of the tunes, and Snoopy went, hang on a minute, that's that Matumbi singer. He's never been to Jamaica. He's never been to America even. It's a Battersea boy. And twigged it like that. Because when I asked Snoopy, how did you, he went, that's what it was. And the same guy that went, yeah, you could keep your mouth shut. It was him. He couldn't keep his mouth shut.
These things have a way of getting out. So who'd like to hear some of the compilation? So, okay, I'm gonna play you some snippets off the compilation, and then we'll get Dennis can fill you in on like the background and stuff. So I'm gonna hit you with a bit of the opening track, which is Dubland by the Dub Band.
Actually, I am the Dub Band. When that track was being made, I'd met a young man from Bristol by the name of Joshua Moses, and he'd won our Bristol leg of Search for a Star. When we did it in Birmingham, the winners was Steel Pulse, and the winning prize was a day in the studio with moi. And so I did the first Steel Pulse recording after the talent competition that they entered. And when we did it in Bristol, this young kid, Joshua, had won it. So I invited him to London to make a record. And when he came to the studio, he went, "Where's the group?" And I went, "I am the group." And he was agape as I played the drums, then the bass, then the guitar, then the keyboard. And that kid went away and went to music school just to learn how to do all that. And when I saw him again, he was like, "Yeah, I can be like you now." So I was like, "Yeah, Josh." And this is the track. Running a bit fast. Mate.
Is that a bit of clavinet I hear on there?
Yes, because being a big Herbie Hancock fan, and he brought out this, and everybody was on that instrument, Stevie Wonder, everybody. And I had to have it in this tune. In fact, who was in the studio with me when I was recording this was a young lady by the name of Karen Wheeler. And I invited her to do the backing vocals. If you ever hear the vocal version of that, that's Karen Wheeler singing the backing vocals.
Yeah, I'm going to play a bit of this one now.
Oh, yeah.
At the right speed.
Oh, yeah. It always helps.
Run, 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 run. Babylonian, run, run, run.
UK dub.
What can you tell us about Blood then?
Well, I was watching a show on Channel 4 called Roots, and it disturbed me greatly. So that coupled with Enoch Powell's Rivers of Blood speech inspired me to write that song. And where I'm saying, makes no difference if you change my name, because in my heart, I'll remain the same. Blood I go run, you know. I mean, there's blood running through all of us veins. So I guess that I meant not there's going to be a bloodbath, but there's going to be more of us born with blood running in our veins. Yeah. So blood I go run.
So we're flipping over to, I'm not going to play every single track off the compilation, we're flipping over to side 2 now. This one relates back to Jar Suffer, I believe.
Great sounds coming to you in a different fashion. You really got to check this portion. Coming from the #1 station. It's a positive vibration to rock the nation. Tell him, brother Era. Watch out. Children not ride no wagon. Children not follow no fashion. the attraction. He just a rocket.
What can you tell us about the man on the mic there?
The man on the mic is a man called Pebbles. And he was called Pebbles because, you know, Pebbles and Bam Bam. Right? Right? So yeah, Pebbles was my young, up-and-coming DJ. And he was very good at repeating what I said, because he had the microphone, I'd go, yeah, tell him. And I'd say something, and it'd be like a preacher in a church, you know, leading the choir. Right, you go, and God said, you know, stuff like that. So I would be saying stuff ahead of the beat, and he would drop it on the beat, right, you know. So I was kind of teaching him how to kind of be rhythmical. And that was his first attempt at making a record, because I just made this record with Errol Dunkley. And it was so popular that I thought I'd make another couple of different versions, but I couldn't risk using one of my pseudonyms. So I got Pebbles, like, Pebbles, come in here, and he wrote the thing, and he did it, and it was like, yeah, I've made a record, you know, and that's it. I've forgotten about that until now.
Well, speaking of different versions of the Errol Dunkley, a little way different rhythm, there's another version straight afterwards, and I know these guys went on to big things. I'm just going to play you a little bit of this one.
The Cosmic Hydrant. Is that clapping it again?
So the horns cut, wait for it. Who were the Cosmic Hydrant?
The Tenue brothers, Patrick Tenue and Henry Tenue. They're now known as Matics, because when they played in that group with Levi Roots, they were called Matic 16, right? Which is the name of the gun that the police have in Jamaica, M16, right? It's a sort of repeat rifle kind of thing, machine gun. They don't have pistols, the police in Jamaica, they have machine guns, right? Because they're not bad boy. And so these two young gentlemen, we accepted them into Matumbi, because all the horn players that I knew at that time were 3 times our age. You know, we played with people like Rico Rodriguez, rest in peace, and Eddie Thornton, Steve Gregory, and Michael Rose, Bammy. These were much older men than us, but then older people played horn, you know, and they were from a bad boy school in Jamaica called Alpha. And these two young, half Jamaican, well, their parents were Jamaican, but their dad was Chinese origin. So they were kind of mixed race, Chinese and black. And, you know, a different kind of looking human being, right? And the fact that they could play horns, and they'd been playing since, you know, youth, and played in lots of youth orchestras and stuff. To find kids that were actually younger than me that played was, you know, it was like a bonus, right? So we brought them into the band to you know, satisfy our horn parts that we had used older people to play. And in fact, Patrick played the trumpet and Buttons played the saxophone. And once he was bragging, he said, I can play trombone, you know. I thought, you better not be lying, because I've got a trombone at home. And I brought it in, and he played it, and I thought, you can keep that. You know what I mean? I don't like this, the way it makes your mouth smell. Blowing all that brass. You know, your mouth smells like, you know, old coppers, old money. And in fact, recently, there was an exhibition at Scotland Yard where Buttons gave his first trombone to the exhibition. And I called her, it went, you mean my trombone that I gave you? You've conveniently forgotten that it was me who gave you that trombone, and he's top trombone player in this country right now. I mean, they left my band, and with Linton Kwesi Johnson and all, they went and joined UB40, and I was like, good luck, lads. Why don't you pint down the pub when you come back from tour?
Okay, another tune. I think there's a lot of like massive tunes on this compilation, but I think this one is, yeah, I don't know how this wasn't a massive hit, but I'll play you a little bit of this one. This is Come With Me by Dennis Curtis.
Ooh.
Delivering the amazing vocal, Dennis.
Moi. Actually, the recording of that song led us to the West End to a recording studio called Gooseberry. Now, Nick and myself had written that tune and wanted to record it there and then. So we got the yellow pages, good old yellow pages, looking up for studios that were available, and we came across this studio in Gerrard Street, Chinatown, off Wardour Street. I said, yeah, you come down? And we went down, him and I. To this day, my younger sister still calls him Ginger. He's got ginger hair. He goes, I'm Ginger. Then you can't say that, it's offensive. But he doesn't mind, because she's called him that ever since before she could speak. And we went to the studio. When we got there, the studio owner said, where's the band? And I said, we are the band, right? And he was like, oh, I've got to see this. And then we put that track down. I played drums and Nick played all the keyboards. And that synthesizer, right, that Moog synthesizer was the same synthesizer that I used later on to do the opening of Louisa Moore Court, you know, right? And so that synthesizer was part of the studio and the studio sound. And in fact, when Lloydie Coxon found out that I was engineering in a studio in the West End, he went, let's go and make some records. And we did. Him, Castro Brown, 15, 16, 17, Brown Sugar. And out of that studio came Silly Games.
Well, actually, I'm going to change my selection. I actually queued it up.
What?
That's a great segue into playing you a lesser heard version of a tune that you all probably know.
Rewind the tape.
Some lovely pizzicato strings on that version. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Because originally I was going to use real strings to play the string part, but I only knew one violinist, right? And so I said, I'll tell you what, come in, you play the and I'll play the rest on the keyboard, because they just brought out a new keyboard called a Selena, which is a string machine. And the Musicians Union were up in arms about this, because it was going to put orchestras out of work. So I thought, I'll have one of those. And yeah.
Was it Joe Bunny on the drums as well?
No. On the drums here is Angus Gay, Drummy Zeb from Aswad. In fact, he's also the drummer on Little Way Different with Errol Dunkley. Because him and I went back a long way to my Sufferer days, where he was the drummer of a group called Metronome All Stars. It's a steel band. That was before he was in Aswad. And, you know, I once, when I saw him with this drum kit, I said, you know what this is? This is a drum kit. You can tune the skins with that. And my God, he made my life a misery. Because every tune we recorded, I've got to tune the drums. And he would tune the drums to the key of the song, which was admirable, but it took some time. And yeah, and you know, lots of people were afraid that him and I were going to form another group and forsake Matumbi or Aswad, but we never did.
Okay, we're going to play one more song off the compilation, and then we're going to throw out questions to the audience. So this one kicks off side 3 of the compilation.
Oh yeah, my brethren. Oh yeah, my fellow man. Monday morning, wake up.
That's not on the record.
I should hope not at all.
Yesterday was famine, today inflation. Tomorrow, Jah will come with fire and condemnation. No rain now fall. Who the daughter quack up?
Who was that particular group, Dennis?
Well, I think I called myself African Stone there, because I was probably a bit stoned. And being African, you know, the two words went together. African, stoned. No, that was recorded in a recording studio in Camden Road. There was some fellas that put a studio together there, and a friend, Mikey Durain, was the engineer. And Mikey Durain is a multi-instrumentalist, but he always had Jabani playing drums. So I'd gone along to help out with something in Mikey Durain's studio, and Jabani was there. And I always admired Jabani's playing. For me, he had the proper sound. He could play like Carlton Barrett, right, the Wailers drummer. And I later found out from his teacher that man had taught Carlton and Bunny. That's right. Well, he was the drummer of the Scatterlights. Anybody know his name?
Nibs.
Hey. Well said. Yeah. Mr. Nibs pointed out to me, I said, you know, talking about drummers, he went, yes, we teach the two of them. You know. And so I had this idea to do that tune. And a friend of Adrian Sherwood's, a guy we used to call Lizard.
The great Lizard Logan of Creation Rebel.
That's right. He was there. And when I sang, Monday morning, wake up feeling hungry, he piped in with, hungry, right, in a real kind of twee voice. And I thought, I'm going to use that bit. He went, yeah man, use that. And then, don't have the word, don't have the strength, we go nowhere, go look nowhere. And he went, no work today. Oh, Lizard Logan, yeah man. And yeah, I put that together in the studio with Jabani playing drums, and I filled in all the other bits.
Amazing, thanks so much, Dennis. So we're going to throw out, so basically the order of service for tonight, we'll throw out some questions to the audience. So there's a microphone over there, which as you've seen demonstrated, needs to stay behind that speaker, so we don't deafen the poor Dennis Bovell. But yeah, if you want to form, and we'll have a few questions. Then Dennis is going to sign some records at the back of the room for a bit, and then he's going to entertain us with a DJ set. So if anyone's got any questions for Dennis, please go and see Simon over here in the black polo shirt, and form an orderly queue. And I'm sure Dennis will be happy to answer one or two questions if anyone's got any.
Yeah, I got a question. I can shout. So thinking back across your musical career, is there any special time in a dance or a clash when you heard one of your tunes and you were particularly moved by that?
Yeah, there was a time when Fat Man had asked me to make him a dub plate of a song that I'd recorded with Matumbi, a song called The Man in Me. And I made this dub plate for him because he was the only person that asked for one. And then he was doing a sound clash with an old friend of mine, and that I didn't know. And then in the sound clash, Fat Man puts on my dub plate and says to my friend, "I heard Dennis Bovell's your friend. You ain't got this one though." I played it on him. Someone came out of the dance screaming and laughing on the floor. And what's wrong with that? Fat Man just dumped Natty with one of your dub plates. I go, no. So yeah.
Perfect.
Any other questions? Yeah, please feel free to step up to the microphone.
This lady here.
So you mentioned moments of having 15 of your friends over to your dad's place, or creating an environment in your student room with all the different ages.
In the basement, yeah.
Was there a moment where you experienced that you were kind of like making history, that you think back and you're like, wow, I feel like this is a moment in time. I feel like we're making history. Did you ever have that feeling of like the energy in the space? Or?
Yeah, I had the feeling that we were one day going to make it to the top of the charts. And I had hoped that the first recording with Marie Pierre was the one to do it, but the one with Janet Kay was the one that did it in the end. But while we were there in that basement making music, my uncle, who's a trained musician, would bang on the door of the cellar and go, "Tune them bloody guitars." And I was like, what's he talking about? But now I've learned what tuning, how precious tuning is and how precious it is to be in tune. But I mean, when you're 14, you just want to play the thing.
He was first.
Richie Maharishi Hi-Fi.
Yeah, Dennis, talking about Jamaica and, sort of you playing with the artists that came from Jamaica, what was you looking for recognition from Jamaica sound system wise? Was you kind of hoping to hear your tunes get played?
No, I was just loving reggae and wanting to get involved with it.
Yeah.
And those people that I named earlier made it possible by endorsing the way we played. And when you played for people who were famous and had songs that the audience knew, you couldn't afford to mess that up. You had to play it exactly like it was on the record. Otherwise, you'd be booed off the stage. So yeah.
Hi Dennis, great honour to have you in the trades once again. There was always a kind of symbiotic relationship between punk and reggae. And how did you get first involved with the likes of the pop group and the Slicks?
Well, I had been talking about my love for Jimi Hendrix and how I often wanted to replicate his guitar playing. And a young man by the name of Gareth Seeger, who was the boss of the pop group, heard me talking like that, and he got his manager, Dick Odell, to call me up to offer me a production. If I could produce a song with this group, this really crazy group called the Pop Group. I thought, oh, that's a great name, the Pop Group. Because I had previously loved Bob Dylan's band, The Band, and we did the first record, a song called Beyond Good and Evil, and it was very well received. And Odell said, well, I suppose you want to do the album now. I went, no, I don't want to do the album. He goes, yeah, but I've got this lovely studio that you will be locked in and you won't be allowed to come out until the record's done. I thought, oh, that's a good idea. Because I'd never worked in a residential studio before. And there was always the chance that someone would turn up late, and blame it on the buses or whatever. Or someone, there was punctuality was in question with young musicians. So if we were living in the studio, living on the job, as it were, no one had any excuse for not, turning up on time. Plus, I knew where your room was. I'd come and knock on the door and wake you up and go, come on in the studio. And we had such a fantastic time doing that, where we were on the job, as I say, that the next 9 months I spent in that studio making albums with the like of the Slits next, Matumbi, Marie Pierre, and I did quite a lot of my early productions in that studio, and the equipment was owned by John Anderson, the singer of Yes, and we were using it on the side until Ari scribed on the desk, Ari was here, gave the game away.
Any more questions? Yeah.
It's the last question, shall we?
Yeah, last question from Kirsty.
Okay, so Empire Road. Matumbi, were they the first black British act to do a soundtrack to a British black TV program? I think you probably were.
Yes.
Can you say a bit about Empire Road? Because I used to love that soundtrack.
You did?
Yeah, yaki, some fish, rice and pea and yam and banana. I grew up with that.
Cool.
So I just grew up with it.
Well, Norman Beaton, rest his soul, who I think is one of the greatest actors to have graced these shores. I mean, even though he's been dead more than 20 years, we still get episodes of Desmond's, right? And he, I mean, the night he'd made the pilot for that, he called me over to his house and sat me down and said, I want you to tell me what you think about this. And I laughed my face off and he went, good, because I'm so close to it, it's not funny anymore. And he had got this part to play Lenny Henry's dad. He was a shopkeeper, a corner shopkeeper. And this was going to be the first acting role for Lenny Henry on TV. So we were invited to, make the tune for Empire Road, which we did. And then one day while we were doing incidental music, I thought it'd be great to do a reggae version of Rule Britannia. And people were like, what? No, you can't do that. They go, we can. And we did. And when we were recording it, they came and they put one microphone in the bass drum, one microphone in the air above it, and went, yeah, that's it. I'm going, no. When we mic up the drum kit, we put a microphone on every drum. So they said, well, we can't do that today because the BBC orchestra are using all the microphones in the next studio. So we said, oh, right, is that right? And when they went to lunch, I just went in there and helped myself to the microphones.
Thank you so much for all those brilliant tales. So Dennis is going to... Dennis Bovell, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Can't believe we've got him in the house.